Ois Dalet. Achine, Gilui Zeh Shemin HaChoshech B'Ribui Tzimtzumim. This revelation that comes from the darkness, which is these many restrictions of the light, is Bisarusa Dilatato Talyumilsa. It hinges on the Sarusa Dilatato, the arousal of above, in order to get that Simcha Shel Mitzvah, to get the higher level, that comes through the arousal of below. Liyois. So that there should be, you should reach the level that you should love Hashem with both Yetzer Hara. Shagam HaYetzer Hara Yoshuv Lavodas Havaya B'Bchinas Iskafya V'Yishabcha Chashoch L'Mehera. So that also the evil inclination, the second Yetzer, the Yetzer Hara, should also come back to the service of Hashem in a way of subduing, first forcing, and turning around the darkness and making it to light, turning the Yetzer Hara into Yetzer Torah. And why? So this is what's going to bring out when a person is going to act in a way that he pushes himself and he turns around the darkness to light, he brings down Milamaila, that the level that was dark, that was not graspable, should become light, should become a Gilui. What happens? Just like the person below is strengthening himself against his nature. Whether it's in the level of staying away, pushes himself to stay away from bad, and also in the level of doing good, in the way of batel ritzoincho, to subjugate his wishes because he wants to do what Hashem wants. Shemevatel ritzoinei u'misalik es atzmei, he gives up his wishes, he moves himself away. He throws away his nefesh, his wishes, his nefesh abahamis. He throws it away, only doesn't follow them. Follows skafia to be connected to Hashem. So when the person does that, kach nimshach milmailo, so this also brings down from above the level of subjugation and removal of the essence of the light. He brings down by Hashem that the light shouldn't come down in the full force, as Hoyd should not shine and reveal as is. Then the worlds can't tolerate that light as is. So that shouldn't happen. That's why it's dark and not Vigilui. That light, because he can't take that. Hello, but rather it should be restricted with various types of restrictions. We read this Hamadreges and the descent of the steps. So that there will be some light from this darkness. This is a descent to bring that level of choshech and that level of the Ein Sof, to bring it down, that it should come down big as galus, is a descent. Mamer, as our sages of blessed memory tell us that the Mokoim that where you find Hashem's greatness, which means if you can see, you find the greatness, which means there's a gilui, that means it's a descent for Hashem. which means he let the essence of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, he let that be, and he rests his divine in a level of restriction, so that there should be the revelation and the light from the darkness of above. So just like the person pushes himself to be mevatel his rotzen and to do the rotzen Hashem, that's the serus of the Tato. He basically causes the oir to be restricted to mitzamtim himself as well, so that it'll come down to the person, to this world, to be able to take it and appreciate it. And also, when the person turns the darkness below into light, so then you also bring up from above the revelation, the level of which is higher than light. Just like over here, we're bringing darkness to light, we're also at the level of darkness, which is higher. That is the advantage from the light, is from the choshech, that it's mamshich from the higher level of the choshech. I am bezoyar parshas Tazriya daf nun zayin amid beis, beparshas B'Shalach daf nun zayin amid aleph. I am ashekose bebiur al posik shchoira ani v'nova b'inyan mitzvos loisasachu. Al yidei zeh nimshach gilui zeh gam b'leva odom liyis b'chinas keili u'mishkan. So the person also, through his avodah, his skafin, his hapko, so that revelation that he brought about in the world, that it should come down from the higher level into from the choshech and become oir menach choshech, it also comes down to the heart of the person below, so that the heart is liyos b'chinas kli u'mishkan, so that your heart will become a vessel and a resting place. That what? Is that both of these emotions should be included by him. Both the love of level and fear together. Through bringing down the level of shalom, which is inclusive and it connects. And here we say, at this point, says, Shomer piv u'lishoinoi, one who watches his mouth and his tongue, Shomer mitzoros nafshei, watches from troubles of his soul. But he teaches here, tzoros nafshei means a compressed, restricted. His soul is restricted to one level of av or yira. But if you're Shomer piv u'lishoinoi, you practice iskafia, and you watch what you mouth and you force yourself, then you protect yourself from being restricted. Just out of you get both. Pirush. So that his heart, his soul should not be narrow and short, from being able to contain these two opposites together, which is Shehein Avavira, which is Avavira Elo, Kamashikosu, Harchivi Mekoim Oholech. Widen the place of your tent. Bahainu, how do you reach that? Shmiras people to show by watching your mouth and your tongue in a way of iskafia sidrachra. So that's the way to protect yourself, that the nefesh should not be tsar, but become able to contain both of these midas together. Ba'ayin me'inyan shomer people shoyne b'shalom b'teresh b'ksab b'soif parshas Torah hashayich leparshas bahar shom pirush Shezehu me'inyan mem stuma shel lemarbe hamisra. The word lemarbe, the mem lemarbe is a mem stuma. The shom nemel shom kizchul kenal explains over there in the shalom. Al yidei zeh, through this, through the level of iskafia, nimshra avezu haklula biyira. This ava, which is included biyira in the yira b'pnimis v'toichis halev, in the inner and in the middle of the heart. That liyais halev b'chinas kli u'mishkon la'ava zu, so that the heart is a vessel and a resting place for this ava. Am I reading correctly? And that is stuck and kept forever. That it doesn't move all days, whether it's in thought or in speech and action. As we say in the Psukim, the Bart of Bohom, Beshivt Chobevesacho, Belechtacho, the Gomer Ukshartum Laois. So we say over there that Ave comes down in this speech at all time, and also Tayim for the Tefillah. And we know that Huksha Kol HaKotorah L'Tefillah. What does it mean that it was equated to the Tefillah? So we're comparing it to tefillin, that tefillin is a physical act, and yet it has the kedusha in the tefillin. So that means that all of Torah is like that. Just as the tefillin which are on a physical parchment. And inside of that physical parchment rests the supreme holiness from the in the portion that are written in tefillin. Likewise, it's all the mitzvahs that are in physical. Ukshartam is also, you have the kedusha yoina, that even though they're just doing, Ava Pikein Shoydim Islabish Bahem Eirin Sof, Baruch Hu still addressing them the Eirin Sof Baruch Hu. And therefore, ye kol ma'isov v'dibur of machshaveisom. Basic HaTorah, so all of his actions and speech and thoughts. When he learns Torah, he does the mitzvah, b'chinas avazu bitl zeh, in that level of av and that level of bitl, because you have the Ein Sof over here in the mitzvahs and in Torah. And if you only have the level of love, not the actual mitzvah, but you love Hashem in a way of tzimoin, of thirst, even though he draws upon himself the level of his right hand hug, then, but the problem is that's like a hug from the outside. It's not penetrated, it's not inside. That's why after the davening it goes away. So therefore you need to have this inner bittul. Says Vamshochas Gilu Zeh B'Leiv. How do you bring this down? Alev Shehi Halev Mishkan V'Kele LeAvezu Shatia B'Pinim Yusei L'Techi Yusei. To bring it down that it should be in the inner, in the heart, that it should be stuck and guarded forever. That is Nasa Yidei B'Chinas Mechoykek. to the level of the mechoikek, the engraver, which means sha'oiseh chakika lekeli lekabel, makes it a chakika, which is Moshe Rabbi Chaim Wolosow posuk shanoisam ve'al posuk yecholzu meitcha. Mechoikek. So who is the mechoikek? Mechoikek is Moshe. Talking about Moshe Kosuv, as the posuk refers to him as mechoikek, says Kisham chelkas mechoikek sof. The chelka of the mechoikek is hidden. And that's talking about Moshe Rabbeinu. What is Moshe Rabbeinu? Who hadas? That's the level of das. That is the source of the Torah. It comes from the level of das. Then Nemar Zois HaTorah Shesom Moshe Lifnei Bnei Yisrael, which is the level of das. V'ayim asher kosu b'makom al posik ve'ela mishpotim asher tosim lifneihem. So over here we're saying Moshe Som Lifnei Bnei Yisrael. What does it mean? Moshe placed the Lifnei Bnei Yisrael. Pirush Lifnei. What is the meaning of Lifnei? Is B'chinas Panimius. That's the level of Panimius Bnei Yisrael. Liyos Hamshochas v'Hanoira. So that bring down the Hamshochas of v'Hanoira. B'chinas Keil Elyon, from the level of Keil Elyon, and from the level B'chinas Yoshes Choshech Sisrei Yagilu Oir, that this should be a revelation of light Ad Shemeir Oir Ha'ava Haklula B'Yira, until the light of Ava, which is included in the Yira, that would shine B'toich Pnimius Shaboy, in his inner. Ba'al Yodei, and then through it, Nase HaKeli Alev Kli Kebel, Alev Kli Kibel, the heart becomes a receptacle vessel, so that the inner side of the heart and the should be rotzuf avazu, should be plastered with this love. It's never be moved. So that comes through the level of das, through the level of Moshe Rabbeinu, to bring down the higher level of this Yoshes Choshech Sisrei, to be able to come to the level that it should become in the inside, and then it'll be a permanent, versus just a ahava, which is on the outside. That's a chibuk, but that leaves. So im kol hanal, all the above you will inyan v'yadait hayom. So now understand that yesh hayom hu im halayla, since the day is with the night, and the vayer vaybakim echod. I knew which is like the creation of the world. But you start with darkness and then there's light, which means that you're mamshich the light from the darkness. From the darkness becomes light. So likewise is the revelation of the Enes Baruch from the Choshech Elyon. It's also the same way. So Bereisha Chashoicha. In the beginning is Chashoicha, which is Bechinas Yoshes Choshech Sisrei, and also V'Keil Elyon. And then V'Hodor Nehoira. And then you have Nehoira. You have later on the light. Li is Bechinas Oir V'Gilui. So that's what we say, just like the Yoim. The same thing is in the Giluyim from above. Behainu al Yidei Hadas. And that comes through the level of Das. So, because you have the level of Das. The Weisel gives Nimshach Liyos Chibur B'Yichud Shem Avayim Shem Elikim, that it comes down, that connection, the union of the name of Hashem Elikim, Aidei Hamshochas Vov V'Hanoira Mekel Elyon, through bringing down the v'hanoira kelelyon. Hakolim chaber shnei includes the opposite. So you have the havaya, the likim, the gilu, and the tzimtzum together, that you get a gilu from the shem havaya to be through the tzimtzum, so that it'll be nimshach to the person. This is hamshacha which comes from way higher from Ishtalshlus. The B'chinas Yoshis Cheshach Israel is Gilu Yershu, is Gilu Yershu Adei B'chinas Guras Tzimtzumim. So in order for that to take place, is B'sarusa Dilatata Talia Milsa. So you need, in order to initiate that the light from the level of Cheshach Israel should come down through the Guras Tzimtzumim, you have to come through the Susal Tata. You have to turn to your heart, which means you base to have both of your hearts as one. So that also the Yitzhahara should turn to Avodas Hashem. That is B'chinas Iskafia Batla Tzeincha. Through the level of Iskafia Batla Tzeincha. So that will be the Levavcha Bezashem Serusa L'Tata Serusa D'Leila. Through the arousal of below, the Iskafia from the person practices, he brings down the arousal of below, that the Eibusha should sort of be mitzamtzim himself, that to be dan v'nusnusay, and be able to come down into the world. That will be to be able to come down into this world. And that's why, so the pasuk is taught, Vidata hayom. No, just like the day, first you start with darkness and then you come to the light. Same thing will be Hashem Elikim, that you will connect and bring down the Havaya into Elikim, into the Tzimtzum, from V'hanoir, from the higher level of Yoshos Cheshach Sisra. Through turning to your heart and switching around Iskafia, the Yitzhahara, also to the Yitzhah Tov, so you have to Hashem Cholavavcha, this is all the level of Das. Kitzur. This hinges on the arousal of below, which is by subduing and turning around the darkness to light. Through that, you bring down from above a revelation and a light from the darkness of the above. Also brought the idea of Shemer, people Lishoinoi, that through your iskafia, people Lishoinoi, then you don't have the tzoras nafsha, you don't have the narrow, and you're able to contain both avavir, and then it's a lasting because it's bepnimius. V'hainu, and how does this take place? Al yidei b'mechoykek b'mishanoisom. That is Moshe Rabbeinu, which is the level of das. B'mechoykek b'chinas das. So Vidata hayom, that is the level of Vidata hayom. Umizeh, from this you come Vidata hayom kavayu likim. V'hainu al yidei v'hashavisa el levavecha. So through v'hashavisa levavecha, to turn yourself around the Yitzhar Hora to the Yitzhar Tov, that's the way to accomplish that. So he brings in now another idea what Razal say, our sage blessed memory say, in Brachas Dafnun Heyamid Beis, Kabe B'Tzalel. So this says B'Tzalel, so he says B'Tzil Keil Yisa B'Yadaita. You are in the shadow of Hashem, of Keil, so he suggested that first to make the Mishkan and then the Kelim, even though Moshe instructed to do the Kelim, he says we're going to put. So he says, "Oh, you realize you were B'Tzil Keil when Hashem told me first to make the Mishkan and then put the Kelim." What does it mean by tzel kel? Tzel kel means hainu b'chinas kel elyon. Moshe Kosu b'zer chelik beis in zer chelik beis in Truma kufnu beis of Dav. U'mezer nimshach v'yadat b'tzel kel o yisah. You are a tzel kel, and then you know the level of das. So we're saying that from the level of kel comes to the level of das. Hainu v'yadat hayom. So from tzel kel, from the level of Yoshes Choysech, Kel Elyon, comes to the level of that. It comes to Hainu v'yadat hayom, which is B'chinas, B'reishach HaShecha, V'odar Nahira, first the darkness and then light. Ukanal is mentioned before. V'achar kach, V'ashevoiso el levavecha. V'zeu she'omar, and then first you have V'yadat hayom, and then Zeu she'omar lasis mishkan tchila. And that's why he said, make first the Mishkan, which is Lahamshich HaMakif HaElyon, to bring down first this Betzalzel, the Makam B'chinas Yoshes Choshech Sisra. V'achar kach Orem V'kelim, and then you make sure Yiyas Kalos B'pnimis. As later on, just like Vashavos Lovecha, first the level of Makif and then Pnimis. V'ayin Me'inyan Ki Avayu Elikim, B'zoyer Chelik Gimel, Nosei Kuf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph, and Koyrach Kuf Ayin Ches Amud Beis, Parshas Achrei, Daf Samachay Amud Aleph, and Breishis Daf Yibes Sov Amud Aleph, Va'era Daf Chafei Amud Aleph, V'ayim Mashkos Mizeh B'divra Maskil Shuva Yisrael.